society. Saloon keepers and owners of gambling houses were considered to be reputable, if not respectable, citizens, and often served as mayors or as members of the town councils. These men had an overriding belief that the end justified the means and perceived their actions as being an effective way to help maintain law and order. Of course, the taking of innocent lives was the frequent price of vigilante justice. And while not all the victims were above reproach, let's face it, folks, some of them must have been guilty. All of them, regardless of their crime, their guilt or innocence, deserved their legal rights and the due process of law. Now, the exact number of victims of vigilante justice is not exactly known, since these avengers had reason to be shy about publicity. Most Western scholars and history buffs all agree that the number of victims, well, it's in the thousands. Now, let me give you some examples of these vigilante wolf packs. In the 1840s, the era of manifest destiny, the West, as I mentioned, was often lawless, even when the law was present. For example, in Shelby County, Texas, like much of the West, the town was overrun by rustlers, counterfeiters, murderers, and a variety of other assorted, nasty hombres. To make matters worse, local politicians were as corrupt as the criminals. Now, in an unexpected burst of civic concern, Charles Jackson, a local tough guy with an unsavory past, took it upon himself to clean up the county. He organized a private army of vigilantes, calling them the East Texas Regulators. It soon became clear that Jackson had more on his mind than just law enforcement. Nice store you got here, partner. Be a shame if anything happened to it. In other words, pay us or else. Jackson, who is shot in the back, was quickly taken out of the picture. But the regulators continued to operate, and a gentleman known as Matt Mormon took Jackson's place. And Mormon was even more corrupt. Mormon brought in hired guns, and the regulators became a gang of terrorists and enforcers, much worse than the outlaws they were supposed to be pursuing. Now, in 1841, a rival gang, the Moderators, sprang into being, allegedly to enforce the laws that the regulators were so, well, quick to ignore. The Moderators also attracted a criminal element to their ranks. Yet they were effective enough that within 3 years they had rid the county of outlaws and renegades. Then they decide to turn their sights on their rivals, the regulators, in what transpired to be an all-out bloody war between two gangs. But when a real war broke out with Mexico, Texas patriotism drew the two groups together. The regulators and the Moderators rode off in tandem to fight the Mexican army, leaving behind them the graves of over 150 victims of so-called vigilante justice. Now, in these early days of the American West, law enforcement was often left to a lone sheriff. But when one man was unable to control the bandits, citizens sometimes formed vigilante gangs for their own protection. For example, Lincoln County, circa 1845. Now, Lincoln County had the reputation of being the most crime-ridden place in all of Missouri. Bands of horse thieves, Confederates, counterfeiters, cattle rustlers, they rode rampant through the county. When captured, the criminals had witnesses prepared beforehand to provide them with, well-thought-out alibis. The townspeople, fed up with the legal shenanigans, decided to meet and basically discussed ways of dealing with the crime wave. What can we do asked one citizen at the meeting. "We can pay them a visit," answered another. And if we decide that they're guilty, we can teach them a lesson. We'll slick their rear ends and see how high and mighty they are after that." And so the citizens of Lincoln County, Missouri, formed a rather unique vigilante gang, the Slicker Spankers. Now, they formed this gang in order to visit law on the lawless. They cover their faces with kerchiefs and hoods, then begin knocking loudly on doors in the middle of the night. "Bill Marley, we think you was up north 2 nights ago and stole a herd of horses." "I didn't do nothing," replies Marley. "'Twas right here with Ethel May." "Yup," says Ethel May. "See," says one of the vigilantes, "he had an alibi already. That means he's guilty as sin." "Guilty, guilty, guilty," chant the vigilantes. And they grab him. "I didn't do it," yells Bill Marley, as the back flap to his breeches are buttoned open, and his ass is laid bare for all to see. "Bill Marley," says the leader of the vigilantes, who is holding a large switch in his hand, "you have been found guilty of horse thieving, and I'm going to slick your behind." Whack, whack, whack. "Yow!" replies Bill Marley. "This is hurting me more than it is you, Bill," says the vigilante, as the group begins taking turns spanking the suspected lawbreaker's ass silly. It didn't take long for the Slicker Spankers campaign of 1845 to 1846 to begin showing results. And, the Lincoln County, Missouri vigilantes, who according to legend never took a life, are considered to have been among the most effective ever in the American West. Their work done, they simply vanished, perhaps heading further west in order to find somebody else's ass to spank. Now, during the great California gold rush,